Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you how to save and load data with Swift and Xcode. So let's go ahead and get started. In this tutorial, we want to accomplish, basically we have a score and a high score. Now when you reset the score, we want to keep this high score, but not only keep the high score when the app is first loaded, we want to kill the process of our app, load it back up, and it will always have that high score. So let's get started. Alright, let's open up Xcode and create a new Xcode project. This is going to be a single view application. Our product name, I am just going to call mine Saving Private Ryan. You guys can call this whatever you want. Your language will be set to Swift and our devices will be set to iPhone. Click Next and Create. And now I'm going to make this a bit bigger. And we're going to go into our main.storyboard and I'm going to add in our label. This first label will just be our score label. Like so. So we will have our score displayed inside of this label, and let's make it a bit bigger and center it. Then we also will have our high score label, so let's just take that score label, duplicate that, and change the name of it, and change the text inside of it to high score. And let's center it, make it a bit bigger. So there we have our score and our high score. Alright, and now let's create a button, and this button will actually be our counter item. So this will actually change the score anytime you click on it. So we're going to center this inside of our scene, and I'm just gonna pretty up by changing the background to some nice colors. That's a bad color. There, okay. And we can erase the text that's on the inside there. Right, there we have it, and now let's lastly enter a reset button. So this will reset our score completely so we can see what our high score is. Now, like so, we'll just put that right in there. Alright, now let's go ahead and connect these up to our viewcontroller.swift file. So open up our assistant editor up here in the top right corner, and we're going to connect our score by just saying right-clicking or control-clicking and dragging from our score label. And this will be our score label. Connect that up, and then we'll right click or control click and drag from our high score, and this will be our high score label. So now that you have those connected up, connect your buttons, which are our reset buttons. So connect that up, reset, connect, and this one will be our score, our counter. We'll just call this our counter button. This is going to add more to the score. Now we want actions to be happening when we click these buttons. So right click or control click and drag from reset, and we're going to make this an action. Make the connection type an action, and now we can insert an action. So this will be our reset action. Connect, and then right click or control click and drag from this button, and this will be our counter action. Oh, I meant to make that an action. Counter action. So there we have it. And now we can put things inside of these actions that we have. And lastly, I'm just going to center all of these. So I'm going to right click or control click and drag from score and center it horizontally and center it vertically so that it will stick to any size device that we have. So just do this real quick. Alright, now that those are all centered up and they're going to work on any size device that we plan to choose, we can close our assistant editor and go over to our viewcontroller.swift file. Now we want to create our variable. So our first variable will be our score. So say var score equals 0. And then we will have another variable, and this will be our high score. So we can say high score equals 0. Alright, now that we have those scores all set up, let's go over to our reset action, and we want to actually we don't want to reset anything right now. Let's go over to our counter action, and we're going to say anytime this counter action is pressed, or when that counter button is pressed, we're going to say score plus plus. So we're adding 1 to the score every time, and then we're going to say if the score, so if, open parentheses, close parentheses, score is greater than our Highscore label. I'm sorry, our Highscore, not label. Then we want things to happen, so open curly bracket, enter, close curly bracket. And inside of this, we want to say Highscore is equal to score. So we're changing our Highscore to the score that is being created, that is being added to. And now we need to update these labels so they can actually show this. So in order to do that, we can say our counter action, we can say score label dot set text dot text is equal to ns string open parentheses, and we're going to have format ns string. So our ns string, this is going to be an open quotation mark, close quotation mark, %at, and right before that %at inside of the open quotation mark, close quotation mark, we are going to have score, like so. So now this is going to substitute this %at for whatever argument we have right after this. So now we can replace this argument for our score integer that we have created. So now let's go up here to our if statement, and we can say Highscore label dot text is equal to ns string, and this is going to be the exact same thing, format, except this time we're going to say Highscore colon %at, and then our argument afterward will be our Highscore integer that we have created. Alright, so now if we were actually to build and run this, you will see that when we click this button, we get an issue. And actually we have a problem. These should be %i's, not %ats, because for whatever reason, at means pretty much any object, I means it's an integer. So you want to say %i instead of %at. Now let's build and run this. And as you will see, we will click on this button right here, and we grow the score and the Highscore. Now let's add our reset value, and I'm just going to go over to my main.storyboard and fix the problem with this. Now if you ever do mess up on your constraints like I just did, I made it equal to the width of the scene, and that is not what I want, so I'm just going to erase those right over here in our size adjustments over there. So now we can do that for this one too. And build and run. And now we have this box and our reset and our score and our Highscore. So now if we click this box, you will see that it goes score 8, Highscore 8, and we don't have anything for reset, so nothing will happen. So let's go over to our viewController.swift and make things happen inside of our reset action. So we can say score is equal to 0. And then we update that label by just going down here, I guess, and doing that like so. Now, it's as simple as that. There's not too many things that are going to be inside of this reset button. So now we click reset, it resets the score, but again, it keeps the Highscore, as you will see. And when we click on the score, it will go up to the Highscore. So now if you were to click Command-Shift-H, which is the equivalent to just double tapping your home button so you can end the process of your application, you can just end Save It Private Ryan, and you can open that up again. And as you will see, the Highscore and the score went back to 0. So now let's go over to our project again, and now we want to save the Highscore. So we want the score to go back to 0 because that's normal, but we want the Highscore to save. So in order for us to do this, we go over to our view.did.load. And first of all, we're going to load, actually not right now. First, we need to create a default, so we can say var default, or we'll call this Highscore default is equal to ns user defaults.standard user defaults. And now if you go into your Highscore default, you can set a value for key. So we can say dot set value and we're going to set this value, our high score, and then we're going to save it as the key of our high score. So basically what all this is doing, we're creating an NS user defaults, which basically means we're accessing the core data of our application and storing it inside of there. And then we're going to grab that out of it later on with this key that we created right here. This is going to be anything that you want. You could call it high score, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to call it high score, and we're going to access it by this name. And you also want to make sure that your capitals and everything are properly done. That way you don't get any errors later on. Now we are setting this value, high score, to the key, high score. So now that that is done, we can easily say high score default.synchronize after that. All right, and now we actually want this to load up in our scene. So when our view loads, we actually want this to set as the high score. So we can easily do this just by saying, first we need to grab this part right here where it says var high score default equals ns user defaults dot standard user defaults, and we're just going to put that right inside of our view did load. For some reason, I don't know the exact reason why, but you can't call an ns user defaults or your standard user defaults inside of this super where you could access it from any function. You need to call it in every function that it's referenced in. So now that that's over with, we need to say high score equals high score default dot value for key, and we're going to again add that key that was inside of here. So just copy and paste that right in there. Equals, so high score equals high score default dot value for key, and we're going to store this as an NS integer, like so, and add an exclamation point to initialize it in your scene. Now, one thing you will notice, I'm going to build and run this right now. One thing, it's not going to work. You're going to get this excessive bad instruction. Didn't understand what this meant for a while, but basically it means that something is not loading up properly. So in order for this to happen, you need to say if high score default dot value for key, and this is going to be a high score, is equal to nil. So basically, if this high score is equal to nothing, then we will add this into our high score. So basically, it was trying to add something from nothing. So it's not going. It didn't work properly. And again, this needs to be equals nil. Now, if we built and ran this, we will see that you're not going to get that exception code. Actually, you will. Of course, you will. That's how programming goes. So actually the problem is with this statement right here, you need to say it's not equal to nothing. So if the value high score is not equal to nothing, so if there's something inside of that, we're going to load that inside of this high score value that we have. Now we can build and run this. And as you will see, we have our high score. Of course, there's nothing added into the high score at the moment. We can reset our score and go home, delete the process, and go back into our saving private Ryan. And oh, one last thing. You will see that it is working because the high score isn't growing as the score increases. So we need to actually load the high score inside of our high score label. So we can say high score label dot text is equal to ns string open parentheses format, and this is going to be open quotation mark, close quotation mark, high score, colon, and then our argument value, or that's going to be %i, and then our argument value will be high score. And let's build and run. And now you will see that it loads up with our high score as we did before. Again, you can kill the process and see that it's working every time. And reset the score, and la-di-da, there you have it. That is how you save your counter or your score inside of Xcode with Swift. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. That's it for this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more tutorials like this from me in the future, be sure to subscribe down below. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. No, I did not get punched in the face. Cold source.